side over there. All right, moving right along. City Clerk, please.
Mayor, I don't have any comments tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am. City Treasurer.
All right, I've got a detailed report for people here, so bear with me. First off, City Hall remains open. We do have our COVID procedures and social distancing measures in place. I still encourage people to please try to pay by mail, try to use the drop box. We are trying to keep everyone as safe as possible. Going on from that, something we have been attempting to continuing to work and stress proper procedures, organization, and communication. And so this part of my report right here, like portion of my previous report, is going to relate to a lot of the work that we've been doing and the massive amounts of time we've spent on items from years past. So at our last council meeting on January 19th, we notified everyone that certain steps were not taken during the prior administration in order to recoup money from Wayne County for the CDBG, that's the block grant. And we're happy to report that the mayor and I were able to work with Wayne County, and we were able to recoup our money. It ended up being $296,000. And then continuing on, Tracy, myself, and others continue to work on grant management. And while we are getting further caught up on our grant requirements, in terms of filings and whatnot, which went back to 2018 and 2019, what we're finding now is that many of the reimbursements we're entitled to from the state remain open. This goes back to the 2018-19 fiscal year, where we have a possible risk exposure of $535,000. From the 2019-20 fiscal year, which is up to $437,000. So this total of $972,000 is sitting there. It's something that we're turning our attention to. It is our highest priority, and it's something we will be working to get back.
What were the items that we received, BJ? Just make sure you tell council.
Yeah, so give me 1 second right here. Going back to fiscal year 2019, so it's the 2018-2019 year, there was a fire engine we purchased for $314,000. So we have not put in for reimbursement on that. There are a few other items here which total about $200,000 from that year. Let me see. It relates to road patrol, infrastructure repair, crime scene technician. So that amounts to about $535,000 from that year. From fiscal year 1920, $142,000 related to a streetlight project, and $260,000 related to ambulance. So these are things that are open, and these are things that we're coming across when we're finding stuff from years past, and we absolutely are.
Let me just make a point of clarification. So as it relates to the $142,000 for the street, was actually $145,000. And BJ, correct me if I'm wrong, but for the street lights, we haven't expended that money as of yet, because that was the cameras. Is that correct?
I have this as the streetlight LED conversion phase 2.
Oh, that's something different.
Yeah.
Well, that was
So this is $142,975.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Right.
That's something we had already spent on the LED lights. Okay.
Yeah, so
Now, when are we supposed to ask for reimbursement? Just for the general public.
so we are going to, this will be Tracy, myself, Lamb Moran, sort of all hands on deck, because $1 million sitting out there. We're going to work with the state and figure out what do we need to get you. And
but my question was, when was it supposed to be done?
Oh, when? When was it initially supposed to be reimbursed? Before today. I wish I had a good answer. answer, but this should have been done.
You know, in the perfect world, you spend the money, and then when is it supposed to be reimbursed? Like within a couple of months, a few months?
I mean, I would say you would usually want to turn in something within a couple of months because you don't want to float cash for this long. We're going back 2-3 years. And my biggest worry and something that gives me a lot of pause, like I set our risk exposure for a reason. There's no guarantee that when we reach out to the state now, that they're going to say, yes, you are entitled to all of that money. There may be stipulations around time frames when reimbursements had to occur. And I'm sorry, I know I'm not always painting the rosiest picture here. I'm trying to be transparent. Moving on from that, that is obviously a highest priority. I mean, something else that is taking up some of our time, we have city-owned properties that we've owned since 2017, which were not properly categorized as tax-exempt properties. So in 2018, we taxed ourselves, and we didn't pay it, and these now are subject to foreclosure with Wayne County. So we're spending time working on projects like these.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Councilman Shaw.
Now, none of this was brought to the council, or was Plant Moran privy to any of these repaybacks to the city, or?
So you're talking about the grant management?
Yes.
There is a grant reconciliation they do, but it really it falls on the administration for us to bring it to you.
So you're saying that the past administration had knowledge of this and did not bring it to the council?
I cannot say whether I can't speak for them. And I don't think it's fair for me to do that. But I would say that it should have been known, and it should have been presented.
Now would these be? I'm still kind of confused with it. Now, this is something that would be in the budget to actuals that you get every month.
Yes, and so the thing is, if you're going back a couple of years, it's going to cause discrepancies now. If you say we have $1 million that we expended in these other 2 prior years, and I mean, I'm just picking a number here. Let's say we get $600,000 back. When we get that, if we say that it's going to be during this fiscal year, it's going to make things look a little out of sorts. And you'll see that in the budget to actual. Yeah.
That's all I have, Mr. Chief.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Piggybacking on what Councilman Shaw was inquiring on, I do remember Plant Moran did tell us that there were some reimbursements that the city was waiting on that were delayed. I don't recall if that was because of COVID or what was happening. They were coming down from the state. I can't recall if there were other entities. I don't know if they ever came through. They told us they had to close the books at those times. Those reimbursements would not show up on the past audit. They would show up on the future audits whenever the reimbursements came through. So they said we might take a dip in the past and then you can come back up and it looked like you have a surplus, but those would be the reimbursements. I'm not sure if they covered that in the conversations or not, or if this is anything we just speaking on, but that's what I do recall.
So, yeah, I mean, I learned of this, Councilman, I learned of this morning, this actual exposure amount, and that was with a conversation with them. Again, I can't say
reimbursements was about $700,000 or more. I know they had named that figure.
And we're thinking of this million, we may be able to get 600,000 to 700,000 of it, and I think that's the number that you're referencing. It's the same thing. But there's no guarantee going backwards to 2018 that we will
know too, in 2020, and I'm not sure if any of these grants speak to 2020 when COVID hit, the state of Michigan reversed a lot of the supplemental grants they were giving out. They snatched it, moved it all over to the COVID pandemic funds and things of that nature. So monies that were expended in other communities, or they had the intent on expending them, they no longer have them because they had granted them, and then they retroactively took it back with a snap of a finger. So just to put that out there too.
Yep, I mean, we'll dive into it. We're going to get back as much as we can. It's just going to take diving into. And, I mean, what I'm getting really is we are spending a lot of time on prior year stuff, which is, obviously making it tough. Like, I want to provide you guys as much for this year as possible, but truth be told, I mean, I'm only halfway through what we're doing on prior year stuff. Now, luckily, the rest of what I have is not these large numbers, right? And yes, I mean, I will dive further into that with Plant Moran. As soon as I knew about it, I did not want to not provide this information to everyone. So.
Councilman Williams.
Because this is really upsetting me now. Because I know when they purchased, when they got the grant money for the fire engine, is what you talk about. Okay? They claimed we had gotten that money. That was back in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? When the previous mayor and council was here, they indicated they was awarded $800,000. Children, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, it was over $800,000 that they received. Remember when we got rid of one of the old engines, we sold one of the old engines. And that money is supposed to be already guaranteed we supposed to already have that money guaranteed. So what happened down the road for that?
Yes, I was under the same impression, especially, I believe the fire chief spoke to that when they talked about selling the fire engine and where we were getting the grant from. Was that when it came through his department?
And we was awarded it.
Yeah.
So if we was awarded it, why are we coming back in 2020 talking about we didn't get the money?
Is that a question to me?
Well, I don't know.
It might be rhetorical because it might be rhetorical. But
we need to know who dropped the ball. I'll tell you that.
Here's what I can say. We are putting an emphasis on the organization and the communication. And that's what's helping us find out some of this stuff right now. Like, I can't always speak to the last several years, but the reason we're having this discussion now is because we are digging, we are finding things. And while I know that speaking about these things is troublesome and uncomfortable, the fact of the matter is they're at least coming to light now.
The fire chief is on. You have something to add to that, chief?
I know the fire department did what we were supposed to do. We wrote the grant. The grant was awarded, and we basically handed it over to the finance department after that to collect the money.
Right.
We don't do that part. So
Right.
we did everything we were supposed to do. We got the grant, got the truck, took care of all that. But after that, it's out of our hands,
Right.
We didn't get the reimbursement. We spent the money, but we didn't get the reimbursement. That's what happened.
Yeah, and I don't know where in the chain, things
Wait, I'm sorry.
did not necessarily work, but I just know currently something didn't quite work as we were hoping. The process did not quite work as it should have.
Mayor Pro Tem Howard.
I don't have my documents in front of me, but I do know when we had a year ago, when we had the meeting with Plant Moran and Darren, and we was all on board. Didn't he say then that
They were saying that we were going to
it's almost like $1 million in grants that we have to collect?
Yeah, they were saying that we were going to get the money back, but then when they went to
Right.
get the money back, they didn't have the proper paperwork filed from the city.
Okay, because I do remember that. But
The same scenario would just happen with the tearing down of Woodson School and the Blue School. We got the
Okay,
award,
so-
we got to follow through with the documentation to get the money back.
right. So here's what I'm saying as far as the grants. When we are awarded grants, we spend the money, and then we collect the grants. Is that how grants are done? If we awarded a grant, we spend our money, and then wait for that money to come in to offset what we spent. Is that how the grants go?
Not all grants, but these ones from the state of Michigan, yes.
Okay, that's what I'm doing.
Reimbursement grants.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
This is the first I've heard of this. So,
right.
I just assumed the money had come in and we were good to go.
I thought the money
I'm
came
afraid
in.
that it's-
Me too.
No, it had to come in. It had to come in.
Somebody paid a good pretty picture there because that money, well, we all they had to receive that money. I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 800. I wasn't nowhere near council. I was in the audience listening to it, and for $800,000 because you remember then we had this other old engine something we tried to get rid of.
Yep.
Right.
Throw that
The
over
money
there.
supposed to come in. So what happened to the money? We didn't get it.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yep.
Somewhere that process went awry, and that's one. Again, it's all coming down to communication. And Chief Hubbard and I, we actually have a great line of communication, and we're working hand in hand with Tracy, and these are things we're trying to shore up so we don't have to deal with them. I mean, I unfortunately I cannot make you feel better about the past. I wish I could. But the best we can do is we can try to fix it. We can try to recoup what we can, and we have to create better policies, procedures, better communication and organization. And we are focused on that. And the reason I'm giving these
Mr. Chair, I just have one more thing.
reports. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the reason I'm giving these lengthy reports is because I want to be as transparent, as honest, and give the full disclosure I can. So you know what we're working through, what we're accomplishing, and that we're trying to pull us back up to par so that we can move to where we need to be.
Yeah. That's our focus. Well said. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Howard, you have something?
I just don't remember. I remember when we had grants out there, but I didn't know that one grant was for the fire truck. I didn't know that one. Because I know they did say that we was like $1 million that we needed to collect.
Yeah, that was
But
it.
I did not know that that $800,000 or however much it was in that category.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
All right.
Mayor, all right, I'm done.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Wiley.
Yes, speaking to the treasurer, he talks about lines of communication and what happened in the past. Have we been in he said he just learned about this morning or something of that nature, but have we been in contact with the former treasurer? Because I'm sure he can shed a lot of light on these things.
Some. I mean, if you remember, I mean, he is working a full-time job as well. So he helps with what he can, but by no means can I don't know if I can necessarily expect him to respond to lengthy emails of mine or anything like that.
So the answer is no then?
We've had some discussions, but a lot of my discussions with him are trying to figure out how to do certain things currently. As far as some of these past grant considerations, I mean, we've had nominal discussions, but my focus is to pull them up to where they need to be. If something's not with the state, then it's not with the state. My need then is to get it where it needs to be. time, in my opinion.
I think I understand.
Yeah, I mean, trust me that, I mean...
There's no further explanation. Thank you.
Yep, okay. Continuing onward. I knew that this was going to take a little bit of time, so I apologize. As I said, we're working through a couple of properties which are in foreclosure with Wayne County, which are owned by the city. We have some IRS HR forms from 2018, which we are trying to finish and complete. They are HR forms, which makes it a bit more difficult in our current situation, as we need to get an HR consultant or temp in there. So then pulling us back to more what's going, more current activities. The forecast files were sent to each department on Friday, January 18th. We are still working on trying to get these back from most departments. We do have planning, treasury, and fire department first drafts, and we will have to go back and forth with each department. So this is, again, my plea to all the department heads, please return these files to me. It's our best way to create a proper forecast. I wanted to mention that we've explored alternative insurance options, including altering our self-insured retention amount, just to see if this would help us either with a better policy or a way to that would result in some cost savings. Because currently we're paying about $340,000 annually, and unfortunately our insurance options are pretty limited, and our current insurer was not open to changing our coverage at this time. But we do have a small sliver of hope here. When discussing with our insurance, they noted that if we take certain trainings that help mitigate risk at for each of the department heads, it's something that our insurer looks at and could give us more favorable pricing when our time to renew in September comes. So something I'm going to do is try to roll out these trainings to department heads. Similarly, we are exploring other health insurance options for the city. This is more of a preliminary note. We're still assessing options and costs, but I just wanted you to know that that is something we're exploring. We are collaborating with the unions right now and determining the contents of new union contracts. So as part of this, I just wanted everyone to know that we are discussing the financial implications of drop programs, of early out programs. Any decisions we make regarding these programs, we want to make sure we don't only consider short-term effects, but also consider the long-term implications. And the way to do that for those two programs is we need a cost study, which is only a few $100s and would be split between the unions and city. Something that is a bit more exciting to the public safety folks here, we have taken our first steps to create a public safety foundation. Chief Riley, AC Ratliff, Patty Kukula, and we met a couple days ago to start pushing this forward. And Patty runs the Detroit Public Safety Foundation, and she pulled in around $3.5 million for them last year. Obviously, we're not the size of Detroit, but this is a great opportunity, and she's going to also run our foundation. So we're still working on specific details, but the foundation will help provide support and benefits to fire and police departments, and the hope is that it'll take some of the financial stress off of the city. We did get the legal costs for all the setup negotiated down from $5,000 to $1,500 to $2,000 right now. The 2020 city audit. So I know that we had the Inkster Housing Commission on here earlier. I do want to say, so first off, we received approval from the state of Michigan for an extension of our filing deadline to March 1st. And the Inkster Housing Commission has done a great job of pushing through their audit. So I do want to give a quick thank you to Tamika at IHC and Andrea. They are nearing the end of their audit, which will allow it to go to the city auditors, which will keep us in the timeline of filing by March 1st. And one of the big reasons I want to say thank you to the Housing Commission is they had an extension on their own audit until March 31st. So for them to be finishing by mid-February is something we certainly appreciate from the vantage point of the whole city. I do also want to touch on something on a more personal level here. Like, we have an individual, Rhonda Glover, who has worked for the mayor here, and I want to express my displeasure, because I feel like she is someone who has bent over backwards and given her all to this city, and she has not been paid to do the HR work that she is receiving so much critique and criticism for. Council members, you are entitled to have opinions. We need to hear them, and you are here to do what's best for the city. But I also want to plead that there's times to have empathy too. There's times to consider what she has done with no true reward. And so that's just something I wanted to put out there, because I don't think it's fair how much criticism she has taken. You know, this is not me necessarily endorsing anyone, and nor do you have to endorse her or anything like that. But I think it's important that we consider the amount of effort she's put forth and what she's tried to do because it was put on her. My second to last thing, for IT, I want to say thank you to Darius. He's made progress with VPN licenses and availability, and he's cleared that item off our plate. And lastly, as always, I want to give a shout out to the Treasury team. They've been in City Hall. They've been focused on providing services to the residents. I want to thank them for their efforts. They're an awesome team, and it's my pleasure to work with them.
All right, next time, man, we're going to give you a whole area on the agenda just to do a presentation. All right, going around, man.